Wow. Oh, man, this is awesome. How many of you recognize that song? Oh, good. Okay, cool. Because I didn't want to be the only one who came out and was like doing this and like, I love that song. If you are of an age where you remember that song, it was the best dance song ever because you didn't actually have to have any rhythm, right? You just go to the dance and you'd be like, yay, I'm dancing. No, you're jumping. That's different. I love it. Now, as I've gotten older, I've realized that it's a great transitional song because I no longer actually have to get off the ground. I can just do this and people think, you're dancing. I'm like, no, I'm half squatting. It's good. Welcome, you guys. We are so glad you guys are here. We are so grateful that you showed up to this day of influence. And oh my gosh, we've had some phenomenal speakers today. We've had some phenomenal stories. And I know that a lot of people's lives are going to be touched. And we are also here because Project Search and the things that they are doing are absolutely amazing. We do have a table out there. Please find information on them. Support them as much as you possibly can. They are amazing, wonderful people and doing great things in our community. Now, I want to take you on a quick little journey. I want you to think back to when you were a young kid, a little kid. Some of you, this will take a lot longer because you've got to travel further. But think back to a time when you were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and an adult in your life said those magical words. The magical words were these: go outside and play. Most of the time, it was because you were annoying them or doing something in the house or destroying things, and they wanted you to go outside and do it out there. But for me, those words were magical. I don't know where you were, what you were doing, who you were with, the toys that you played with, but for me, it was very simple. I was at Liberty Lake, Washington, at a little place called Sandy Beach Resort. And if you've ever been there, that was like my childhood hangout. My grandparents were the owners and purveyors of that business. We had, every summer growing up, we were at that lake. And we played and we had so much fun, and I loved it there, particularly the playground. The playground. I loved the playground. We had a big merry-go-round. We had monkey bars, a swing set. We had a jungle gym. We had a slide of death. If you giggled, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, not like the new slides they have nowadays. No, the old-fashioned slides were slides of death. Why? Because they were about 20 feet tall. They were made out of metal. They were a 60-degree angle. And instead of like a flat bottom, no, this one had a little lift at the end. So it launched you into the air. It was fascinating. And after 10 o'clock in the morning, you didn't go on the slide of death because then it was on fire slide of death. We would wait to watch some unknowing little kid go, I'm going to go on the slide. And they would climb up and everybody would gather around to see at what point they ignited, right? And then they'd have to run to the lake to put themselves out. My favorite toy, my favorite implement on the playground was the merry-go-round though. I loved the merry-go-round. It was so much fun. I was a kind of a bigger kid. You know how Corey was like, he's like a fit athlete. I was a runner at one point, but I got better. I recovered. It's okay, thank you. I was a big kid, and I would love to take that merry-go-round, and I would run around in circles, and I would spin that thing as fast as I possibly could. And people would jump on there. I'd swing it around and see if I could fling them off. That was fun for me. We played hide and seek. We played on that merry-go-round. We'd put somebody in the middle and stand them there and then spin them around, see how long they could stay on there before they fell off. I'm sure there were some scuffs and breaks and bruises and that kind of stuff, but I think about the time on the playground and the things that it taught me in life. Because at the playground, the truth is that the adults were busy doing their own thing, and we had complete and utter freedom. And it was beautiful because we had to learn a certain set of skills that have translated to a lot of things that we do today. Some of those skills were we had to learn how to negotiate. We had to learn how to interact in a positive manner. We had to learn how to set the rules for the game that we played. We had to learn all these different skills, how to get along, how to put together a winning team depending on what you wanted to play. And sometimes, guess what? We actually had to learn how to fight. We would have arguments that would end up sometimes in fistfights. We also learned that guess what? If you won, you won. You lost, you lost. You shook hands and you were done with it, and then you played the game, and it all started over again. There were no hard feelings. We learned how to get past things. We learned about failure. We learned about gumption, and guess what? Sometimes things hurt, rub a little dirt on it, and get going again, because it's playtime. These are skills that were so important to us, and that I don't know about you, but when I think about the things that I learned on the playground, and the thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of kids that I interacted with on that playground, that is directly transferred to my life in business. And it has been absolutely incredible. And I've used play and joy and happiness to build teams all across the country. And I didn't know it. I didn't even realize it, that the play has a way of changing people. You see, as I've gotten older and I've done a lot of speaking, I remember I was at a school once speaking to about 1,000 middle school students. Big, giant set of bleachers, big gymnasium, big cool microphone. And I talked to them about believing in each other and what happens when you believe in yourself, that you can then believe in somebody else and you can support them, put people on your team. And then tell this crazy story about unicorns, and kids are all excited. And then I say, I need 4 volunteers, 4 of them. And oh my gosh, out of 1,000 kids, 500 kids raise their hand. And I'm like, awesome, this is gonna be fun. And so I start just picking kids. Here's you over here. And then I pick a kid in the front row. And all these people come down. And I have 4 chairs set up, and they are in a little square. And I ask the kids to introduce themselves. And I hand them the microphone, and they all said their name. And I was like, awesome, cool. And I asked them, are you afraid of being hurt? And they all said yes. And I said, great, I'll take that as a no. Do you play sports? And they all said yes. And one of them goes, do computer games count? And I said, yes. And he goes, yes, I play sports. And these kids are getting there, and I set them up in the chairs, and they're all in this little square, and then they have to lay back, put their shoulders on the lap of the person behind them. And so they're in a little uncomfortable situation. They're like, well, this is kind of weird. And then I say, I need you to imagine that you have a shiny, brand new quarter stuck at the top of your butt crack. I know, butt crack is a fun word. You could say it in front of kids and they think it's hilarious. And I say, you gotta take that quarter and you gotta imagine it's there, and your job is just to squeeze the quarter as hard as you possibly can. And when you do this, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna yank the chairs out from underneath you and we're gonna see what happens. And they're like, wait, what? And the audience is hilariously laughing. They're like, what is going on right now? And they do it, and I say, audience, you gotta cheer for them. You gotta support them. You gotta believe in them. And they just go crazy. And these kids, I can see them, they go squeeze, and I start yanking out chairs, and lo and behold, there they are. A solid structure. Nobody falls, nobody fails. It was brilliant. I put the chairs back in, they stand up, the place is just going crazy. And these 4 boys take a bow, and I send them back to the bleachers. I'm moving the chairs, and as I watch these kids go back, give them a second to get there, I look over, and I noticed that one of my participants went over and sat down with a group of kids that I could tell were special needs kids. And I looked over and I could see his paraprofessional aides, and they were crying. And I was like, oh man, dang it, I made somebody cry. This is bad, because I'm all about joy and happiness. And so I continue the speech, I get done, everybody's leaving. And these 2 women run up to me, and they shake my hand, they're like, oh my gosh, tears streaming down their face. And they're like, I have no idea if you know what you just did, but that kid, we've been working with him for years. He's on the autism spectrum. He doesn't talk. He just stood in front of a group of 1,000 people and said his name in a microphone. And then he did an impossible task. Thank you. And I was like, I'm crying at that point too. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I had no clue. But the power of play changes us on a physiological level. It changes us on a physical level, an emotional level, a spiritual level. And I didn't know it at the time, but I know now that it's because of a certain chemical release in your brain. There are certain chemicals, there's 4 of them in particular, that are very powerful. Endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. Endorphins, those are like your body's natural pain receptors. Those are the ones that block pain. If you think about it, like Corey being an elite athlete and doing those Ironmans, probably chances are he's had a lot of endorphins released because he runs. It's the runner's high. You also think about it. When was the last time you were with a group of people and you laughed so hard? It was that gut-busting, knee-slapping, pee-your-pants laughing, right? Fighting for oxygen in the room, and you're just like, ah, right? Your tears streaming down your face. And then you're like holding your side, and you're like, oh my gosh, oh. And then you get the side ache. Well, believe it or not, that side ache was there the whole time. It was there because that's your liver. And when you laugh, you released a ton of chemicals in your system. The endorphins were actually masking the pain of your liver being squished. Yeah, on the outside, you're laughing, your abdominals are contracting, giving your little liver over here a nice little massage, right? And not like the nice shiatsu massage. We're talking like deep tissue with elbows massage. And all of a sudden, on the outside, you're like, ha, ha, ha. And on the inside, your liver's like, yee. And it actually helps your liver to do its job better. Believe it or not, if you provide joy and laughter for someone, you're actually helping their liver to get rid of the toxins in somebody's body. You're actually helping them live longer. You have a superpower and you didn't even know it. That's endorphins. Dopamine. Dopamine is a really cool one. Dopamine is released when we do something that feels good or that makes us feel good. And it's crazy because dopamine is also highly, highly addictive. Now, dopamine is released for a reason. It gives us the impetus to do something that is good for us, generally. Meaning, if all of a sudden we eat some good food, your body releases a little bit of dopamine and goes, ooh, that was yummy. We should do that again. It encourages you to eat meals, okay? Without those, we'd probably not be doing too well. It also does, like if somebody does something, you do something good and somebody gives you positive reinforcement, and all of a sudden a little dopamine is released, you want to do the good thing again so you get more positive reinforcement. The problem with dopamine is that it's also highly, highly addictive, and that it can be released when other things happen. Drugs and alcohol, those are addictive things. Your body goes, ooh, I like the way that feels. And then all of a sudden it encourages you to do it again. Dopamine is a good thing, but also can be very addictive. You got to watch out for it unless we get addicted to the right things. Now, there's that one. There's serotonin. Serotonin happens to be the leadership chemical. It's a beautiful chemical that is released when we do things for other people. And how it works is this, is if I'm actually walking behind somebody and their backpack falls open, and all of a sudden everything falls out and they're like, oh man, stress release, cortisol in the system, like, oh no, this is terrible. But then somebody helps you. Somebody actually comes along and, oh, here you go, and they help you gather your things and they put them back in. Well, serotonin has been released, not just for them, but for the person that helped them. And the really cool part is that anybody that watched that process happen has now had a release of serotonin, and that it's shareable, and that the people that watched that activity are now more likely to go out and do something kind for somebody else. It's the leadership chemical for a reason, because it's shareable. It's very easy to share, and it's awesome. Our last one, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. Oxytocin happens to be people's favorite. It's sometimes called liquid love or the cuddle drug. Yeah, it's the sweet one. It's the one if you're with somebody and you hold your hand, and all of a sudden you're like, I like you. That's the oxytocin, and it's being released into your body and their body, and it's the reason we have compassion and love for other people. If there's any parents out there, do we have any parents out there? Oh yeah, there's a bunch of us. I don't know if there's dads out there, but my goodness, I remember the birthing process was terrifying. It was scary, okay? It was the most helpless I've ever felt in my entire life. And there was nothing I could do to make anything better because I was just a dumb guy, and I was like, this is my fault. I understand that, okay. But all of a sudden, this little child pops out into the world. And at the moment I held my son for the very first time and got to announce that this is my son, Emmett Gregory Mclachlan. Oh, I lost it. Hand him over to my wife, and massive, massive amounts of oxytocin flowed between myself, my son, and my wife. And immediately I was like, I want more. Oxytocin sometimes makes us forget the hard things. And that's what's beautiful about it, because it helps create a support system. Now, the cool part is if you have all of those things firing at the same time in the right amounts, you can create teams that can do impossible things. And it's absolutely brilliant. And if we use it intentionally to build our teams, that's even better. Because play is more than just fun. There's a point in time when fun is just the point of play. But as we get older, play has a purpose. It helps to connect us to other human beings. It creates a support system, a crew. One of the brilliant things I think that Mr. Miller said earlier today, David said, that people have a hard time being present in the moment. Play is one of the things that can actually focus us and put us in the moment. It's brilliant. As a matter of fact, I'd like to try a little experiment real fast. Most of you are with somebody. That's awesome. If you're like sitting by somebody else, you might have to turn up or down or back, sideways, whatever. But I'm going to give you 60 seconds, and between you and the person sitting next to you, I need you to think about yesterday. Think about your day yesterday. What'd you do? Where'd you go? What'd it make you feel like? And then if you had to describe yesterday to another person, the person sitting next to you, using only 3 emojis that you would find on a cell phone, what would those 3 emojis be? Take a moment, think about it. Day yesterday, how'd I think, what'd I do, all these kind of cool, crazy things. What emojis come to mind? And you've got 30 seconds each. Tell the person next to you, what were your 3 emojis that described your day yesterday? Go ahead and tell them right now. Excellent. All right, wait. How many of you had a happy face emoji? Anybody have a happy face emoji? Nice. Anybody have the laughter with tears emoji? Somebody made you laugh real hard. Okay, anybody have the happy chocolate yogurt? It's not yogurt. Okay, now I know. Sorry. Okay. But if you think about it, all of a sudden, in that moment, in 60 seconds, all of a sudden you were thinking about, well, wait a minute. If that was that one and that one and that, what did you do? And the brilliance of it is that you were focused on another human being for a second. You weren't thinking about what's for dinner. You weren't thinking about what do I got to do at work. You weren't thinking about what am I really getting out of this speech. You were thinking, what on earth did you do yesterday? You were present in the moment with another human being. And that's absolutely brilliant. Think about taking that back to your office or wherever it is you work. And on a Monday morning, you have a quick little 10-minute meeting. And 3 or 4 people in the room, you say, hey, I need somebody to describe their weekend in 3 emojis, and then everybody else guesses what their weekend was like. I can almost guarantee that hilarity will ensue, that there will be joy and laughter, and then they have a chance to tell it. And then all of a sudden, guess what? You've released serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, and maybe if you get a bunch of joy and laughter, the endorphins. It's awesome, and it focuses you, and it helps create a better team. Play also has the ability to help us to deal with tough situations. Play also has the ability to take a team that is doing good and make it into something that is doing great things. It's got to be intentional, though. It can't just be play for play's sake. You can't just put a foosball table in the office break room and say, all right, we're better now. It doesn't work that way. There has to be intention behind it. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but I've done a lot of research into employee engagement and the things that go on in businesses. Did you guys realize that in the United States alone, between $450 and $550 billion, billion with a B, in lost revenue because of productivity and lack of engagement? Play is one of the brilliant things that helps people focus, feel engaged, and believe it or not, it actually gives people a chance to tell their story. And if you can tell your story, you feel like you're a part of something bigger, guess what? You're now engaged. What is the bottom line for you in your industry, in your business? What does that mean if you have people that are engaged? What percentage does it raise? Typically 17 to 22% in revenue. That's a big number. Now, you guys, in my last few minutes here, I want to give you something that you can take back to the office. If you're sitting next to somebody, I need you to look at them right now and say, challenge. Oh, yeah. We're going to see if we can release some of those chemicals on purpose here real fast. I know if you need to stand up, you can totally stand up, because this one's easier if you're facing somebody. But I want you to take your right hand. They're going to take their right hand. You're going to reach it out towards them like this. You're going to grab their hand with your thumbs pointing up like you are about to thumb wrestle them, because you are about to thumb wrestle this person. Oh, yeah. You know how it goes. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war. 5, 6, 7, 8. Try and keep your thumb straight. You'll have 5 seconds to battle this person. Only 5. Are you ready? Count it with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war. 5, 6, 7, 8. Try and keep your thumb straight. Battle. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time. Nice. Give that person a high five and say thanks for playing. Oh my goodness. Nice. Oh my goodness. Believe it or not, I love it. Some of you stood up. Some of you back there are like athletes. I saw somebody actually leave the ground. I'm sorry about that. Didn't realize we had those kind of people here today. But oh my goodness. There it is right there. A little piece of contact releases endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. You smiled, you laughed. guess what? Chances are you're probably going to want to talk to that person a little bit more. Who knows? Maybe the next time you go lefties. Who knows? Maybe you add lefties and righties at the same time. I can tell you, I got a million of them. We'll just keep going all day long. You guys, thank you so much for being here. We are really appreciative. I know it's like I'm a little bit over. I'm so sorry. I'm taking an extra minute because we're a tiny bit ahead. But if you guys are interested, please, please, please let us know. Any of the influence speakers, we would love to help you out with what you do. It's real simple. You can text 474747, and then in the actual space there, just like that, 474747, the word influence, and then the speaker. Mine is influence, and then Geoff. I know, now you're like, that explains a lot. Not a normal Geoff, he's a Geoff. But if you text that, just so you know, it's going to ask you for your name, your phone number, and an email. If you do that, just so you know, I wrote a small book, a little ebook, and it's got 10 activities, 5 days worth of activities plus 5 physical activities that you can do in your office space or with people that actually build your community and are fun and release those chemicals on purpose. So if you text that, we will be more than happy to give that to you. So you guys, again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for doing what you do and making a difference in your communities. Have a great rest of the day.